I'm going to show you how to use the Orchestrator REST API. Let's get started. Hi everyone, I'm Watrous from VVork. If this is your first time here and you want to learn about automating, programming, and monitoring in VMware environments, you're in the right place. In this video, we're going to talk about how to use the Orchestrator REST API. Now, if you've been watching these videos in sequence, back in part 10, we were talking about how to create Orchestrator workflows that use our REST client plugin. That's a plugin that enables your Orchestrator workflows to act as a client to some sort of REST server outside of Orchestrator. Now, here in part number 11, you need to make a little mental shift here because we're doing, in effect, the opposite. This time, what we're going to be doing is taking a look at the Orchestrator REST server. In other words, the server that provides REST services that's built into Orchestrator itself. What we're going to be doing here is see how to use a client outside of Orchestrator. We'll be using Postman, but how to use a client outside of Orchestrator, go through the Orchestrator REST API, and request that the Orchestrator server do things for us. For example, run workflows, monitor workflows, and other things that above and beyond just workflows. The Orchestrator server REST API isn't not just about workflows. So make certain you've made that mental shift and let's move on. If you want to, you can just watch these videos, but I think you'll get a lot more out of these videos if you take a few moments to go download and install some software. I would encourage you to go to my Git repository at gitlab.com/brianwatrous/VVork. And when you go there, you will find that there are 3 things that we want to get that we're going to install into Postman. One of those is a collection of REST requests for VRA servers. Another item that you'll download and install into Postman is a collection for Orchestrator REST requests. And a third thing that you're going to download and install into Postman is what I call the VVork environment. I'll explain what each of these is in just a moment. Additionally, at that same GitLab repository, go grab a copy of the example workflows that I've placed there. Now, if you want to, if you can just go into the YouTube description, I'll provide instructions on how to get these pieces of software and how to install them. But on the other hand, if you want, you can just continue watching this video. I'll show you exactly how you do it step by step. All right, with that said, it's time to head off to the lab environment. The first thing that we're going to do is go to gitlab.com and download the 3 items for Postman. So let's go to gitlab.com/brianwatrous/VVork. We hit enter, and as you can see, this is the repository, and we're going to go into this section here called YouTube. In the section, this folder called YouTube, there's a folder called Making REST API Calls. And in here, the 2 folders that we're interested in first are the collections that we're going to see here in a moment and an environment that I've defined. So let's go to collections. And in collections, we want to grab these 2 collections, the one called VRA8 and the one called VRO8 embedded. To download these, we'll simply click on the name of one or the other. Let's go get the VRA8 collection first. So click on its name. Shows you the actual contents of that file, but what we want to do is to download that file. So we'll click on download. We'll say, let's save it into our downloads folder. And we've got the first piece of software that we need for Postman. Let's go back up to collections and do the same thing for VRA8 embedded. Now, if you're looking real carefully, you'll notice that there's also another one that says standalone Orchestrator. I'm not using the standalone Orchestrator server in these videos. I am using the Orchestrator server that's embedded into ARIA automation. So if you are instead somebody who does not have ARIA automation and you're using Orchestrator in conjunction with your vCenter server using your vSphere license, the standalone collection would be for you. But let's go get the Orchestrator version 8 embedded REST request collection. So we click here. And once again, we're just going to download that file. And once more, we'll save that file into our downloads folder. So we've got the two collections that we need, the Orchestrator collection and the ARIA automation collection. So let's go back up to, back up to making REST API calls. And what we're going to do now is go into environments and download one simple thing. So the collections that we just downloaded defined various REST operations that we'll be able to call from the Postman client. Environments, on the other hand, allow us to define variables that can be used by those requests. So let's go into environments. And in environments, you can see I only have one environment defined. This is my VVork environment. Let's just download it. I'll explain more about what it is here in a moment. Once again, we click the name of, in this case, the environment. And once again, we choose to download it. We'll save it to the downloads folder. And we've got it. Now, those were the three things that we needed for Postman. But you'll recall, there's one thing that we want to download for Orchestrator. So let's go back up to making REST API calls. This time we're going to go into the workflows folder. And as you can see, I've defined one Orchestrator package that contains 4 Orchestrator workflows. Those 4 Orchestrator workflows are very simple, straightforward workflows. They're basically hello world workflows that have a few interesting twists on them. They are intentionally simple because we've got enough to handle just figuring out how to use this REST server. But they are complex enough to show you how to do some fundamental things that you're going to want to do. So let's download that package. You know how to do this by now. So click the name, click download, save it to the downloads folder, and we got it. So those are the 4 things we need to download: the VRA collection, the VRO collection, the VVork environment, and these workflows. All right, now that we've got those, why don't we go start up Postman, and we're going to install into Postman the things that we just downloaded for Postman. So we'll go to Postman, and the first thing that I'm going to do in Postman is to log into a different account than I usually use. I'm intentionally logging into another account so that you will see a pristine version of what I'm about to do here. Now, as you can see, I'm being prompted to update Postman. If you're prompted to do so, why don't you go ahead and update it. Let's restart Postman, let it install the update, and we'll get logged into Postman here in just a moment. Speaking of which, I am going to be logging into Postman using the account for Mrs. VVork. She's not a regular user of Postman. In fact, she's never used it, but I created an account called Mrs. VVork. Again, it's just a blank Postman account that has no collections, no environments, no nothing installed. So let's go ahead and log into that account. I'll click sign in. And as I said a moment ago, I'm going to log into the account called Mrs. VVork. And I'll type her amazingly strong password here. All right, let's sign in. We'll go ahead and let it open up Postman. If you happen to have already had data in Postman before you logged in, it's offering you the chance here to say that. I'm just going to skip this step. As you can see, the Mrs. VVork Postman account has no collections defined and it has no environments defined. So why don't we go import those 3 Postman files that we just downloaded. So we'll click on import and we will select some files located in the downloads folder. And again, the 3 that we want are these .json files that say collection or environment, not the workflow package. So let's go ahead and import these 3. And as you can see, it's letting us know that we're importing 2 collections and 1 environment, which we already knew, but go ahead and click import. And now, as you can see, we have 2 collections that we just downloaded and imported. So for example, VRA 8, these folders contain REST requests that we can use. And as you can see, we also have an Orchestrator collection that has folders that contain various REST requests that I've already defined. Additionally, we have downloaded and installed a environment called VVork. If you select VVork, what an environment is a collection of variables that we're going to be using in those requests. So for example, my vRealize automation server, now known as ARIA automation, but whatever you want to call it, this variable here called VRA server is saying that in the request that I'm just about to show you, when we are connecting to our REST server, this here is the fully qualified domain name of the VRA server that we're going to be connecting to. And this here is the Orchestrator server that we'll be connecting to. Actually, in this specific case here, as you'll recall, I'm using the embedded Orchestrator server. That's an Orchestrator server that's embedded into VRA itself. Even though I've defined this variable here called VRO server, we're not going to be using that. That would be a separate variable that I would use if I was using the standalone Orchestrator server. When I show you some requests here in a few moments, you're not going to see me using VRO server. Instead, you're going to see me using VRA server exclusively. I'll use that variable both for logging into VRA to do things like run assembler, formerly known as Cloud Assembly. I'll also use this same variable when I want to log into the embedded Orchestrator server. Plus, as you can see, I've got loads of other variables defined here. Now again, to drive the point home, we have that environment called the VVork environment. It's got a whole bunch of different variables defined, and those variables are used in a variety of ways in our requests. For example, here's a request, and we're using that VRA server environment. Now, one thing that you're going to notice, if you've only done what I've shown you so far, one thing that you're going to notice is that for some reason, this REST request, and for that matter, all of these VRA requests and all these VRO requests don't seem to understand what this VRA_server variable is, or any of the other variables that we just brought in the VVork environment. The reason why is there's a very important step that you need to perform. It's not enough just to import the environment. You need to go over to this drop-down list here, and in the drop-down list, you need to choose the VVork environment. Don't miss that step. I know I've missed that step a variety of times. And since we're talking about things that I miss at times, so that you don't run into these issues, remember our environment called VVork? We've got a tab here with it defined. If you ever define new variables, or even if you're just changing existing variables in here, make certain that you save the change before you can go try and using those newly defined or redefined variables. You need to remember to save these variables before you start using them, which is a mistake that I have made countless times. I continually forget to save. All right, so with that said, we've got all the stuff in Postman that we need. So let's turn our attention now to Orchestrator. So I'm going to bring up a browser, and in the browser, I am going to go log into my VRA server, because that's where I'm running my embedded Orchestrator server. So I'm going to go to my VRA server. I'll click Go to Login page. And in here, I'm going to log in as an account. And in VRA, we've got all sorts of different services. This is an older VRA server. It's running 8.10. So if this looks a little different than your ARIA automation server, don't worry about it. Your older servers will have names like Cloud Assembly for VRA. On the other hand, if you're using an ARIA automation server, it's the same stuff, but they changed some of the names. So in ARIA automation, this is not called Cloud Assembly. It's called Assembler. But in either case, whether you're running an older VRA server like I am or a newer ARIA automation server, we want to go over to Orchestrator. And in the Orchestrator server, we're going to, just to show you that we don't have these yet, I'm going to go to workflows and I'm going to search for the word hello. Are there any workflows called hello this, hello that? There are none. What we're going to do is go to Assets Packages. And in Asset Packages, we're going to import the package file that we just downloaded from the VVork Git repository. So here's that package that we downloaded. We're going to click Open. So you'll notice here that it's giving us information about this package and even tells us what's in the package. So as you can see, we're importing 4 different workflows. So if we've got what we want, we just click import. And now that we've imported it, we've got the package. Again, if you open the package, once again, you can see its contents. There's the 4 workflows. So this package has these 4 workflows, but to actually get to the workflows, you're going to go to Library, Workflows, and either you can search by name. If I search for hello, you'll notice that we've got 4 different workflows that we imported. That was in the cards view. Let's go over to the tree view because I think this might also be helpful. In the tree view, when you did the import of the workflow package, it created this new workflow folder called VVork. And in there, there's a subfolder called Hello World. And in here, there's the same 4 workflows. So whether you're in the tree view, looking at the workflows here, and you want to run them from here, or you want to go to the list view or the cards view, these are all the same workflows. All right, so you've got Postman set up and ready to go. You've got Orchestrator set up and ready to go. So that's it for this video. Join me in the next video as we continue to explore the Orchestrator REST API.